following review video features materials protected by the fair use guidelines of Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Kamen Rider and the associated mediums belong to Toei Company, Ishimori Productions, and Shotaro Ishinomori. Please support the official release.
Hey everybody, I'm Kralo, and Henshin! Oh, right. I can't do that. Anyways, Bossman wanted to do something new and test the waters a little bit with a new series this time around. Kamen Rider reviews. Though, if Toei blocks this, you might only get one review, and that writer is Decade. Yeah, no, it's kind of weird to start off with an anniversary season, but to be fair, the first Sentai Bossman ever saw was Gokaiger, so par for the course for him, not counting Power Rangers, which might have been either SPD or Dino Thunder. Not 100% sure on that one. Though a bit of a personal story, Bossman first learned of Kamen Rider through Dragon Knight, the Saiban adaptation of Ryuki. And while he only saw a few episodes of it before it stopped airing where he lived. Hold it! Kamen Rider Dragon Knight was, in actuality, adapted by Adnis Entertainment, not Saban. A common mistake. Although, let's be real here, that may be due to the fact that Adnis was formed in order to adapt Kamen Rider to the West, but Dragon Knight did so poorly in the ratings that it was really Adnis's only production, though for some reason the company stayed open for another 14 years, until about 2021 when they closed due to COVID forcing them to close the studio. Anyways, Henshin a Go-Go, back to the review. He would later attempt to watch EX Aid at the request of a now former friend, and while he couldn't stick with it for more than half an episode, he has been interested in Kamen Rider for a few years. Watching it on and off with some friends, who helped take notes, and attempted a Kuga review. And that would have been the first review for this, but due to the tone of Kuga and some outside factors, like watching every episode 4 times with a team just to take notes, long story. It's not going to be added to the list unless we get commissioned for an episode, or, maybe an episode or 2. Quick thing, we have moved from Patreon to Ko-Fi, and for $50, you can request a review. Though depending on what it is, we do have the right to say no. But again, that also depends on if Toei doesn't block this from seeing the light of day, as they've been known to do. We might cancel the next planned review after this, because it is Toei related. Now, we begin our episode with a shot of the famous Toei rock quarry, where this woman in a destroyed dress watches as the Heisei-era Kamen Riders are killing each other? Wait, hold on. There's no way that can be right. Did I get the right copy of Decade? Anyway, with all the riders dead, the only one that remained was Decade. And when you think about it, it could be Kamen Rider's version of the war that started off Gokaiger. Maybe this had some influence on Gokaiger? Gokaiger was only 2 years later. So, it's possible. Anyways, we then get to the theme song of the series, which I can't show due to both Toei and the singer Gekt being sticklers about the copyright stuff. For context on Gekt, he is a Japanese celebrity that grew famous in the 90s as a member of the Visual Kei, which in its own thing probably needs an explanation, band Malice Miser. To briefly explain Visual Kei, it's a lot like hair metal, where it's just as much about fashion and costumes as it is about the music. By the mid-2000s, he began to expand even further, breaking out on his own as a singer, doing several concept albums, writing and singing songs for anime, being the inspiration behind and voicing Genesis Rhapsodos and Crisis Core, acting on TV and in theater, being in international film productions such as the movie Bunraku, writing movies and plays like the film Moonchild, and even working with Internet Co. Limited to make the Vocaloid program Gakpoid. Beyond that, he also owns his own sake company and even a winery. And he donates a lot to help people after disasters, and has run and hosted multiple benefit concerts. There's a lot more that could be said about Gecht, like, the fact that he used to claim to be an immortal vampire, which, when you think about the fact that the previous Kamen Rider before Decade was Kiva, a Rider series about vampires, but this is about Kamen Rider, not the Japanese celebrity. Now, about the theme song, the usage of the film is interesting with how they play a part in the series. Especially since if you look at Decade's helmet from a certain angle, it kind of resembles the slots in a slide projector, which used to be a common way to view pictures. I wonder if that was intentional or if it was just developed along the way. I mean, it also kind of resembles the design of his camera a bit. Now, after the theme ends, we cut to said woman, Natsumi, waking from a dream about that intro and wiping a tear from her eyes right before a Japanese Karen yells at her about a terrible photo that had been taken of her. And this is why you don't have prophetic dreams at work. The Karen will complain about it. She then turns to the corner to see a small group of people harassing her grandfather about the same thing. Upon inspection, Natsumi storms off to see the source of these photos, someone named Tsukasa. No, that's the wrong Tsukasa. No, not that one either. But as Natsumi walks the streets, she notices the glass shimmers around her for a quick second and fails to see a strange Kamen Rider is watching within the mirror. I'd make a joke of, that probably isn't important, but I'll say it again. We haven't finished the series, so probably could be important. It also could be a red herring. We cannot ignore that possibility. At a pond, our title character Tsukasa is fiddling with his camera when two thugs and a lady show up, rightfully angry that he's charging for such terrible pictures and try to attack him. But dude has got some kind of ultra instinct going on and casually dodges the punches while inspecting the photos before one of the thugs asks why he wants to take photos in the first place. Tsukasa then tries to take more photos before he sees a dude in a weird shimmering thing calling him Decade and telling him the world is going to end. Oh, smoke him if you got him. Natsumi then shows up to apologize for Tsukasa's terrible photos before using the Hikari family's secret maneuver, laughing pressure point, to get Tsukasa to laugh uncontrollably and force him to apologize for the terrible photos. After he stops laughing, Natsumi tries to convince him to stop using his family's shop to advertise his photos, though when that fails, she asks why he even takes photos in the first place, but he mentions that the world rejects him and his photos, so he will keep taking them till the world accepts him. She doesn't believe him and asks again for him to stop using her family's shop for his photos. So she's new to the whole being friends with the protagonist thing. Yeah, you really need to steel yourself for shenanigans while being friends with one. Trust me, I oughta know. But as they talk, an odd wind blows, to which Tsukasa notices. And in his camera, they see buildings vanish in this weird vortex thingy. It's kind of hard to describe since we're not entirely sure if we can show the footage since, like Bossman said, Toei are jerks when it comes to anything review related. Anyway, as the buildings vanish, monsters start to appear and create a barrier between Natsumi and Tsukasa. Thankfully, neither of them are named Sioran or Sakura, or this would get really confusing. Anyway, they're both worried about each other, but on Tsukasa's side, it suddenly becomes night, and Natsumi vanishes from sight. A strange man calls Tsukasa Decade again, and acts all mysterious while showing us 9 different Earths, as a 10th one merges into one of them. The man asks Tsukasa where his belt and cards are, as those will be needed to save the world before vanishing into those weird portal things. Tsukasa, being teleported somewhere else, realizes he was with Natsumi and runs off to find her. Nothing like a protagonist and their lack of situational awareness. We cut to Natsumi running away from the vortex as it both acts kind of like that wave of antimatter from DC Comics and teleports in monsters that I'm going to assume are from other Kamen Rider series. Again, we haven't seen every episode of Kamen Rider, so we're not entirely sure. But eventually, Natsumi does find Decade's belt and cards before being reunited with Tsukasa, who is behind a barrier. Just as a monster disguised as her finds her, she manages to pass the belt and card case through the barrier right before running off to try and fight off the monsters before they can kill her. Tsukasa henshins, or morphs if you grew up on Power Rangers, into Kamen Rider Decade, and breaks the barrier between him and Natsumi. Okay, one question. How did he know how to do this? The monsters run away, to which Decade follows them, showing off the gimmick of this season. He can henshin into other riders. And after a few fights, he henshins into these different riders, Kabuto, Faiz, and Hibiki. We also see the people who confronted him earlier turn into dust. Huh. I didn't know the Thanos snap reached that far. It is interesting to note that, as mentioned earlier, how does he know how to do any of this? Even he doesn't know. The two manage to get somewhat safely out of the fights as giant aquatic monsters try and destroy everything, including each other. Before an explosion can get to them, time stops, and the weird dude from earlier shows back up and explains that the stories of the Kamen Riders are merging, and that will destroy the world. All the worlds. Tsukasa must travel to 9 different worlds and destroy them. That is the only way to save the worlds. So this is where Hickman got the idea for the incursions in 2016 Secret Wars. Gotcha. Back at the photo shop, the old man is unaware of the commotion and wondering why the TV isn't working. Tsukasa and Natsumi arrive. They mention traveling to the other riders' worlds, and the old man, and without missing a beat, flips a photo on a wall, taking them and the Photoshop to our first world, the world of Kuga. So he's the Grandpa Max of this universe. I wonder if he was a former writer or from another world before he became a Photoshop owner. Though, again, how does he know what world he's in? I wonder if the source of his knowledge will get any kind of exposure. And that's it for the review. Yeah, we are only looking at the first episode, but if we played our cards right, Toei allows us, the next Kamen Rider video should cover the Kuga storyline. Now, we do have to stress that Toei are very stringy when it comes to reviews, and we can't guarantee anything past this series. We promise, unless major BS happens, we will finish Decade. But yeah, the links shift every video, so I'll just say look in the description for Bossman Chaos's stuff, like Blue Sky, Tumblr, Twitch, Throne, Ko-Fi, yeah, and my stuff too. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe, or else YouTube will steal my lungs just like the movie Repo Man. Catch you around.